Hello there. I've seen quite a discussion in the social media and even the mainstream media about the surge of apartments within the Westlands areas and the Upper Hill and Lavington area. And the discussion about the drop in prices over the time, the last like 1-2 years. And also the discussion is now around how most of the apartments are basically more identical, more similar in terms of design, in terms of layouting. And the questions that arise around that discussion is whether there's a bubble at the apartment niche within those neighborhoods. Of course, the bubble cannot be everywhere. And my observation is that what is ailing is not more of the apartments being put up. To me, is an aspect of infrastructure. The ability of the existing infrastructure, that is the sewer, the road network, power, water, within those neighborhoods, whether that infrastructure will be able to support that kind of development over time. Because that infrastructure was basically planned for what I would call mid-level densities. But of course now those areas have densified, which is normal for the urban centers where growth is happening. Of course, in a neighborhood that is within 1 to 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers from CBD is likely to experience that kind of pressure in terms of coverage, in terms of plot ratios, in terms of what people can develop. And even given that the land value in those neighborhoods have skyrocketed to almost 600 million per acre, from where I see it is that it will not make sense to continue with the same kind of buildings, the bungalows and the mansions that were occupying those neighborhoods. But of course, this is a discussion in a different table, given that of course there are resident associations that are in those neighborhoods who would also to have those areas, those neighborhoods preserved and the original character preserved. But all in all, to me, I would look at the infrastructure and how it will be able to support these densities, because now we are looking at apartments going to up to 20 floors, 15 floors. We are looking at almost 300 units in an acre. So how will sewer support this infrastructure in terms of the apartments coming up? How will water, power, data, and what is the actions the county government is taking? The other route that I would look at is also on matters, what I would call the economics fundamentals versus the market fundamentals. Basically, economic fundamentals, we are looking at the population growth, improvement in some of the infrastructure in terms of road networks. Maybe some of them have improved. We are looking at the ability to attract investors. Those are more of economic fundamentals. And then when I look at the market fundamentals, it's basically looking at what is the best development or what is the best fit for a developer. What investment can a developer actually put in a given neighborhood? And to me, it's now to look at how are developers in those neighborhoods making decisions when they're putting up those apartments. Because to me, the issue is not the apartments per se, but is the mix in terms of whether they are studios, whether they are 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, the coverages, the plot ratios, and also looking at the green areas that those apartments are providing, because we are building for human beings. We are building for people who need to live in serene neighborhoods. So to me, as the developers look at putting up the apartments, I think now they need to look at the aspect of the human being, the livability of that human being, the common amenities, in terms of what other social aspects are they putting up in those apartments, so that when people buy into them and they bring up their families, how do people feel that as much as they're in an urban setup, as much as they're in a densified setup, do they feel that they're living within an ecosystem? And here I'm looking at provision of green areas, the fine gardens. You can have all these manner of things up there within the building, the gymming areas, the shopping areas. Possibly I'm looking at moving towards more of mixed use developments, because even in an acre of land, we're able to achieve that, so that we have this integrated livability. And once we achieve that, then we also push the governments of the day to provide the infrastructure, to bring us sewer, to bring us water, and also increase the capacity of the existing infrastructure, especially on sewer and water. I would believe with that mix, in terms of the developers looking at what is fit to be put up, what is the mix in terms of the units they are putting up, what is even the aesthetic aspect in terms of the external finishes, in terms of the design. I think to me those are things that now we need to start looking, so that we don't just do an apartment and replicate floor by floor. It looks the same. I think now we need to move towards looking at aspects that will attract livability, green aspects, and also encourage community living. So let's discuss on the matter and look on how can we improve these neighborhoods, because of course pressure will keep coming. Housing is a key aspect. Population growth is happening and it will not stop happening. So the question that we need to discuss is, how can we make these neighborhoods more livable, more serene, and better areas to be able to invest in. See you in the next one. Thank you.